The Pennsylvania Railroad E6 class locomotives were the largest and last Atlantic-type steam locomotives built by the Pennsylvania Railroad. A total of 83 were constructed between 1910 and 1914. Although they were considered by some to be out of date when they were brand new, the E6s proved their worth. The locomotives usually operated on the less mountainous eastern end of the Pennsylvania Railroad. This included the run from Washington, D.C. to Manhattan Transfer and various routes in New Jersey. Number 460 was built in 1914 and initially had a career indistinguishable from any of her classmates. However, in 1927, a different form of transportation made global news. Charles Lindbergh completed the first successful flight from New York to Paris and took the world's attention by storm. When he returned to the United States, he was awarded with the Distinguished Flying Cross by President Coolidge. 3 newsreel companies were in Washington to cover the event, and all 3 had a vested interest in showing their footage on the movie screens of New York City first. 2 of the newsreel companies elected to charter special flights to rush the footage to New York, where it would be processed as quickly as possible and then sent on to the theaters. The 3rd company, however, chartered a special train with the Pennsylvania Railroad. This train would consist of a baggage car converted into a mobile film lab and a passenger car for newsreel executives and other dignitaries to ride along. To pull the train, the Pennsylvania Railroad selected locomotive number 460. She was chosen because she had been overhauled not too long before, but had been running long enough to work any bugs out of her. The day of the ceremony, all 3 newsreel companies leapt into action the moment the pageantry had concluded. The film was rushed to the waiting lab in the baggage car at Washington Union Station, and the train was cleared northbound. The engineer had been told to run as fast as he considered safe, and he did exactly that. He slowed as necessary while traversing a few relatively sharp curves along the way, but otherwise kept number 460 wide open. With only a brief stop in Wilmington, Delaware to top off the water in the tender and attempt to repair damage done to the locomotive's water scoop, number 460 ran straight through to Manhattan Transfer, about 8 miles from New York City. There, she handed the special over to an electric locomotive that took the train under the Hudson and into Manhattan. Number 460 averaged 74 miles per hour for the entire trip from Washington, D.C. to the northern tip of New Jersey. Some on board claimed the train topped out at 115 miles per hour. More importantly, the newsreel film arrived in New York processed and ready to go. It was quickly made ready for showing and beat the other newsreel companies to the screens of New York by an hour, despite both chartered planes landing in New York long before the train arrived. The Pennsylvania Railroad publicized the victory for all it was worth, and the tale of the Lindbergh Special was permanently etched into the history of American railroading. Number 460 returned to her regular passenger duties, seeing service along the line from Washington to Manhattan Transfer before it was electrified entirely, and later seeing service on Long Island before closing her career out in commuter service in New Jersey. Number 460 was retired from service in 1955, having worked passenger trains for 41 years. Number 460 was not scrapped as the other 82 members of her class were. She was instead set aside as part of the Pennsylvania Railroad Historical Collection and stored at a roundhouse in Northumberland, Pennsylvania. The collection was later given to the state of Pennsylvania and became part of the collection of the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania. Charles Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis is today displayed at the National Air and Space Museum on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., whereas number 460 is displayed and beautifully restored at the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania in Strasburg, Pennsylvania. 2 machines, built for entirely different purposes, linked together in history by a twist of fate and a rivalry between rail and air. In their own different ways, both machines tell their own story of American tenacity.